Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Product for Product. It's Matt and Moshe here. Moshe and I are wrapping up our series on feedback and road mapping. We've had a great time chatting with each of our guests about the various tools and practices related to road mapping. And I think we've learned a lot. So let's go ahead and drop in. Moshe, how are you doing?
I'm good. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Doing wonderful.
Excellent. And I hope everyone has a nice summer.
Yes, absolutely. It's going quite well and flying by quickly. So
definitely we have to use every warm minute out there.
Absolutely.
That's the way I see it.
There's quite a bit here in Atlanta, so it's quite warm every day these days.
Yeah. And thankfully, we don't need a roadmap for that, right?
That's true.
So what did we learn about feedback and road mapping? I think it was a very interesting topic to talk about.
Coming into it, road mapping was something I had done before. I had some experience with it, with Trello and a little bit with Jira, Excel, with Gantt charts and stuff like that. But coming into it, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to find. I was like, are we just going to learn about the traditional roadmap? But I was really interested in the development of going beyond road mapping, using things like feedback and ideas.
Yes.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, and I had also my own biases about roadmaps coming into this because I was involved in putting roadmaps, creating roadmaps, contributing to roadmaps in the past, and I never really liked them.
Yes.
And it could be because of the tools I were using, but part of it was also because of the why. Why did we even use them, and how did we use them, and stuff like that. And I think before we even look at the tools, we have to ask ourselves why. Why do we want to put a roadmap together? What's the purpose of that? That's why I really liked also having the episode with Martin about how he's using or not using roadmaps.
Yes.
Depends how you look at that. And there is a lot of really good questions asked over there about, do we really need a roadmap, and what is the purpose of that, and who is going to use that? And so we touched in the past also about collaboration as one of the reasons to have a roadmap. Where you have your strategy and your directions, where you want to go and stuff like that, and putting the roadmap together help with everyone understand where we're going, what's the direction we're taking, etc. But we also have to be careful that it not becomes the only collaboration in the way to talk with people, which I think that was, that extreme that Martin was talking about.
Yeah, I agree. You can get carried away with the roadmap. And I like Martin's approach of thinking about not just the tool, but why are you doing the roadmaps, to your point. You need them because I think it gives people a shared vision, but don't be constrained by them. And I think that's where the kind of my bias in that they can be constraining because you don't know where you're going to be in 6 months. And so, to that point, you don't want to be boxed in to a set roadmap.
Yeah, none of us is a fortune teller.
Yes.
And if we put all of these... Exactly. If we put all of these roadmaps in place, almost like we're fortune tellers, we're doomed to fail. So the roadmap should not lead us. We should lead the roadmap, if anything.
Yes.
Now, the other part of the ideation, ideas and feedback, what I really like about that is the systemization of this. So when you collect data, when you collect ideas and feedback from people, first of all, it's not just us that are collecting it. It's not just a product manager. We're just in many cases, we're the receiving bucket for all of that from many different people. And it's really coming from everywhere. It's coming directly from the users if they have access to give us their feedback directly, or it's coming from people that are working with them, like customer success, customer support, the account manager, sales managers. So everyone that has some touch points with the users and customers will get some feedback from them. So how do you systemize all of that into one place and then make sure that you can use that for your planning for the future? And that's really, I think, what's the main thought behind this type of functionalities in these products, where there are actually other feedback ideas and feedback systems that don't have roadmaps, but they have other features. So I don't know if we will do a series about that in the future or not. We'll have to see. But Pendo, for example, we talked about them in the past when we talked about product analytics. They have a whole module for feedback to get from users. where users can give you ideas for your product. They can vote on them and stuff like that. So they don't have roadmap in Pendo. Yeah. So it didn't really fit into the theme that we were talking about. But there are some products out there that are doing that on their own. But it does make sense to tie them together with roadmaps. And that's what we've seen with all of these products we talked about, AHA, Productboard, Roadmunk, ProdPad. All of them has these features because it makes sense to feed into the roadmap from these ideas.
It's all connected, right? So
it's all connected, exactly.
Yeah, I like that approach even with the Pendo feature, is you have a community that are using it, they have ideas, and I like the ability to vote on those ideas because I think to Martin's point, just getting a bucket of ideas and not really having a way to filter those or upvote those or, because everyone thinks their idea is valuable. It's very subjective, right? So whether the community itself can upvote them and rank them. But I think you made a point on one of the calls, not all those ideas are of value. So it's kind of going through and saying, what are the most valuable things? Is this valuable to this subset of users to where I can deploy it? Or is it something I can deploy to a larger user group?
It also depends how those ideas are structured. Many users, and we do it the same way, we always say, if we could only have this button over here, or if I can only create this report over there. So we actually come up with solutions for problems that we have, and we're trying to solve those problems, but we don't really think about the problem. We think about already the solution. Mm-hmm. And the ideas or what we have to do as product managers, we have to go and find what are the problems, what are the real problems over there. And maybe there is a better way to solve it. So the idea could have a nugget there of truth, but if it is structured in a solution way, then it might not be the right solution. There might be better solutions for that. So we have to go and find what is the actual problem.
Yeah, that's a good point. That brings back my thought about the recommendation that Eddie brought up with ProdPad, where people people may have an idea or a feedback item, and they, the system is recommending previously generated ideas. So that
right, so you can find maybe it's already there. Part of that is really important also to reduce duplicates, because if the system doesn't do that, then you will have then to find all the duplicates and connect them together and reduce the number of ideas that you have over there, because most ideas, someone else already thought about them before, especially if you have quite a bit of time where people are feeding into those systems. So you really don't want to have duplicates. What you want to have is volumes of numbers of people that are asking for the same thing. So it's really smart of these systems to do these suggestions, because otherwise people will just create lots and lots of duplicates, and someone else will have to find what is duplicate and reduce this duplication. And it goes back to that, systemization of the ideas and feedback. How do you systemize them in a way that will make your life easier to find what people are looking for, what are the problems that they have, what will be the biggest value that you can add to your users. So that's really important. But again, we have to always ask why. Why are we doing this? If we're just doing it to collect this information and then don't do anything with it, then it's pretty much a waste of time. But if we're doing it because we want to find out insights into what people problems are and to be able to help us prioritize and find new opportunities, that's really is a good reason for that, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. At the end of the day, doing a roadmap just to check a box, or just to say, we have a roadmap, but not being able to stick to it, not having something realistic, is not going to benefit the team. So,
yeah. Now, what was also interesting about the roadmaps that I don't know if it was very clearly defined in all of these discussions, but I kind of sensed it, that most of those roadmaps are not exposed externally to clients. They are to an extent, maybe a smaller version of them or whatever. Did you sense the same?
Yeah, I did sense that. I know Andrea was presenting hers to outside customers, but I think it
Right.
wasn't a very large customer group. So,
Yeah, and
and she was comfortable with that.
yeah,
So,
she was comfortable, and she also mentioned that she has great customers and they
yeah,
don't complain usually, which is really great. I mean,
yeah,
that's what you want to have. But this
yeah,
is really the risk that we always have if we do expose something externally and we know that it's going to change because there is no way it's not going to change. How do we mitigate the risk of setting expectations from external users?
yeah,
And that's usually what even internally it's hard to set up these expectations. We are always saying this is not finalized, it's going to change, don't pay attention to the day, it's only a suggestion, it's only an idea, whatever it is. But people don't always really take those our words in there,
yeah,
and they
yeah.
just look at it and say, oh, this is the roadmap, it is what it is.
Yeah, internally, sharing it internally is one thing. That's hard enough. But yeah, I see a lot of obstacles with sharing it externally to
Yeah.
customers who are paying for your product or using your product. One thing about internal people, they already sales and marketing, they have a goal in mind, but they're on the same team, so so that you can kind of work with them and adjust accordingly. But I'm thinking from an outside perspective, customers like, hey, this never happened. I think you might have mentioned that too with some products. Maybe it was Microsoft or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about. That in the old days, we would all wait for Microsoft announcements when they're going to have their new Visual Studio ID release, when they have their new SQL Server release, when they have their new Windows release, and all of that stuff. And it was always delayed in months and months and months. It was never the time that they said they were going to have it. They would announce stuff and they would say, oh, yes, it will be ready this time. And it was always like, months after. Apple, I think, are doing a much better job in, announcing their products. But, I never pay attention to this, so I don't know exactly. I never pay attention when exactly they announce it and when they release it. Like, I always kind of hear it because I like Apple and I have actually iPhone myself for many years, but I'm not one of those people that will wait in line for hours, on the first day. I actually always have an older version. I never buy the latest one. So I never really pay attention to see when they were going to release it. But it always seems to me that they say, oh, tomorrow we're going to release it, and then it's released or something like that. Maybe it's not maybe it's not as extremely as that. Maybe it's not the day before, but it always sounds to me like a week before, 2 weeks before, something like that. I might be wrong about that.
And maybe B2C and B2B is a different, when it comes to presenting a roadmap or presenting, hey, these features are coming out. Maybe there's a difference there between.
There is definitely a difference there. It's not so much the B2C, it's more, I think, the hardware. When you're dealing with hardware, you have to have a much stricter processes and conditions.
That's true.
And that will be actually one thing I will really be interested to talk about with a product manager that is managing IoT, because there is, when you have physical things, you have many more milestones that you have to go through and manufacturing and things that you don't have to deal with when it's software only. So
this is interesting because I'm thinking Tesla comes to mind. So if Tesla obviously has probably some sort of roadmap for their cars, right? So, but they do all their software updates. They have a hardware. I mean, they have a car. They can't just throw software out there that breaks the car, right?
Yeah.
But they do all their I mean, they just had a recall on their car, but they're doing the recall over through a software. So
interesting. Did they do software upgrade like remotely?
Yeah, so everything's upgraded remotely through the software.
Interesting.
For the most part, and I don't have a Tesla, so I can't say exactly how it happens.
I actually own an EV, but not a Tesla. I have a Nissan Leaf, which I love, but over there is no updates or anything like that. So
yeah, so if they have a bug or something or some sort of feature they want to roll out, they'll do a software upgrade on the car remotely. And so I'm wondering about in that kind of case where you do have hardware, software, you clearly have to test it over and over and over. To your point, and that's why Apple has to combine software, hardware. But if you're just using software and you don't have the hardware comes along with it.
Yeah. So if one of our listeners listening now, if you're a product manager of an IoT please get in touch with us because we would love to have you on the show and
Yeah.
talk about this. Not just about road mapping, but in general, all of the tools that you might be using and stuff like that. But if you look at SaaS products that are software only, let's say, and think about your Google experience with, I'm sure most of you guys are using Gmail and using other Google Drive features and stuff like that. They are releasing features constantly, and when you sometimes go in there, all of a sudden things might change positions, or you have a new feature you never know it before. Sometimes it's there and you notice it on the first day. Sometimes it's there for sometimes and you only notice it later, or someone show it to you and whatever, you didn't even realize that they just released it. This happened to me many, many times, and they don't really announce it or have a special roadmap for that and set expectations for people. They basically just surprise the user. Sometimes it's a good surprise, sometimes it's not a good surprise, whatever it is. So roadmap in there is, I'm sure they do have some type of internal roadmaps for this, but when you release things on a constant basis, and I know that many of those companies, they have or at least I've heard and read that they can release all the time. So they don't have to wait like at the end of the day or once a week or whatever it is, where something that many companies do, but they have constant releases. It's really very hard to create a roadmap for something like that. But this is really where, a Kanban type of roadmap makes a lot of sense, because you're basically, based on your prioritization, you're saying this is what we're working on right now because this is the most important thing for us to work on, and then this is what we're going to work on next because right now we're thinking that this is what's going to be next important, and then all the rest is later, and that later can be a very big bucket or it can be a very small bucket, depends on how many items you want to put in there. But the idea is that only now you know what is the most important thing to do. And in a day from now, in a week from now, in a month from now, the now then is going to be different. It's going to change.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm saying your next is only good for what it is right now. In a month from now, your next might be completely different.
And that's why maybe keeping it simple, to Martin's point, kind of keeping it simple and not putting everything out there, when you first start off is something that would be beneficial to a lot of people.
But I know that these other products are also supporting this type of, I believe all of them. I actually didn't check all of them, but I believe all of them, and based on what we were told by our guests, they do support this type of roadmaps. So here, really what you have to do when you choose a product like that is to, first of all, see what type of roadmap you really want to create and why. And then why would you need a specific product compared to others? Do you want to systemize your intake of ideas and then also get insights into what people are really looking for, what their main problems are, and what opportunities you might be able to solve for them? And then do you want to feed that into a roadmap, maybe in an easy way? I'm not sure. I mean, that's where you will have to go and check these products and see that it's easy for you. So their usability is also important. And that's also we talked about that in different episodes, where some product had a higher learning curve and they might want you to do things in a certain way, where other products are more dynamic and generic and they don't force you to do things in a certain way and they have a lower learning curve. So that's also, of course, always important for everyone to check and see what fits them.
What is best. And that's what was interesting. We started off with AHA, which sounded as though it had some level of complexity to it, for sure. It is like the leader in road mapping solutions, I believe. So, and then we came to Jira, which a lot of people already have within their company, along with the Azure DevOps. And then a lot of people already have that. So, you can start off in something like Jira. And if road mapping is working for you, working for your organization, then you can maybe scale up and then say, okay, let me branch out and see if I could use a more robust product. But maybe like to starting off, just build a roadmap and see how it does for your team.
Yeah, and actually there are a few other products that we learn about while looking into this that we couldn't find guests to come and talk with us about them. So maybe that will happen in the future if we do another set of this theme. One of them was Product Plan, another one was Air Focus. And I think there are a few other products out there that might be helpful. But at the end of the day, it's really, I always say, it's not the product that does the work, it's us that do the work. Mm-hmm. And the product can help us do the work more efficiently. But, if we don't know what we're trying to do and we don't know why we're trying to do it, no product is going to help us with that.
That's exactly it. Roadmunk was something that John talked to us about going along with starting simple. It sounded like Roadmunk was something that he was able to work with and something that had a real ease of use to it. I think all of our guests had similar feedback about ease of use, and that was something that was really important to them.
Yeah. But again, we are not advocating for any specific product. We just learning together with our guests, and it's really up to everyone that listen to us to make their own decision on whichever works for them. I know many people that swear on some of these products. They love them, and they will not change to something else. So there is probably a place for everyone.
Very true. Yeah, so I was thinking along the lines of the different integrations that these tools have as well. With road mapping, Eddie mentioned the integration with Jira. Obviously, that's something that's important to a lot of organizations.
Yeah, I think integrations these days is really table stake feature for almost any product out there. It's very hard to be self-contained and have everything for everyone, and also not be able to integrate with other systems. So whenever you look at any product, not just feedback and road mapping, you really want to see what type of integrations they have that would make sense for your business. Specifically here, we were talking about Jira, but I was always kind of laughing about Azure DevOps because that's what I'm using. But that's one of those things that can really help you automate part of what you're doing, because things from the roadmaps go into your delivery, which is usually those products that team is using. But there could be other types of integration, of course, with other systems, and mm-hmm. And having this ability to integrate is always something this day and age very important.
And all of our guests didn't use the integrations. In Productboard was one of the conversations we had. They're moving to more of a platform to where they're opening up a lot of different integrations because they want to be a end-to-end solution. So I thought that was a really cool enhancement. Productboard was one of the original tools that I had looked into quite a while ago, and because they have a lot of good documentation, a lot of good learning material. And it's interesting, the movement from, okay, we're a road mapping tool to more of a platform. I think a lot of companies are going towards that platform to where you can do it all on this solution. We integrate with a lot of different tools that you're probably already using because it automates and improves your workflow.
It will be interesting to see how all of this develops in the future. I wonder what our podcast is going to be like in 10 years from now.
Exactly. What will we be talking about for sure?
Yeah.
Maybe Gantt chart still on Excel. You never know.
Hopefully not.
You never know.
Yes. Excellent. I really enjoy this series, and I'm looking forward for our next series. We'll have to start talking with people online to check who is going to come and join us for the next series. I believe it's going to be about in-app messaging. So if you are using any product for in-app messaging, let us know. We would love to chat and give you an opportunity to talk about it on our podcast, teach us about it, and we can all learn from that.
Sounds good. It's been a really good series. I want to thank all the guests that came on and to talk about their experiences. It was really helpful. Looking forward to the next series, and appreciate all the feedback and all the listeners.
Yes, please do send us feedback, because that's really what helps us making this better podcast for you guys.
Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you very much. Take care.